Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well. Today we are going to have a look at a car that I've bought cheaply. I mean, it was essentially a cheap car. It's just something that Josh's friend's family had stored away in a barn on a farm somewhere and said, would we be interested? It's a bit rough, etc, etc. And I said, well, we're interested in anything. He sent me a couple of pictures, which I don't know if I looked at properly, or maybe I was drunk, I don't know. But I said, oh, well, okay, I could give you probably £3,000 for that car. And he said, I'll pass on the message. The owners came back and said, we couldn't possibly take £3,000. £2,000 would buy it. And I thought, great, okay, I'm going to steal this car. If they're happy with that, I'm happy. And I agreed to buy it. Josh has collected it, brought it back. I finally had a chance to look around it, and I'm starting to feel like I might have been the one who's been robbed. On paper, this probably should still be a good deal, but there's a lot of work to do. It's very much a diamond in the rough. So the car in question is a 2013 Hyundai i30. It's the 1.6 CRDI. And of course, you know, I've paid £2,000 for it. Let's check it out. Yeah, it doesn't look very good, does it? There's quite a lot to process there. Not only is it absolutely filthy, but it seems like it's probably been in a destruction derby as well. Before we get into it and start looking at every fault, let's do as we always do and do a vehicle score check on this car. So I'm going to input our registration, which is Romeo Oscar 13 Charlie Alpha Echo. It's going to give us a score from 1 to 999. Wow. Is it any surprise? 46. Really bad. I'm interested to see, because this isn't a hugely old car, it's 10 years old. It's not on bad mileage, just under 60,000. Why it's got such a bad score. So if we look at our score insights, looking good. It's got a long-term owner. Bad bits, over 20 comments on recent MOTs, and the vehicle is over 10 years old. If we scroll down to our MOT history, we can see that it last passed its MOT on the 5th of April 2023, and it has got about 10 advisories here. Rear tyre obviously underinflated, offside anti-roll bar linkage, front tyre underinflated, near side anti-roll bar, rear inner tyre worn to close to legal limit, rear brake disc worn, offside front inner tyre worn, offside rear position lamp, lens defective, we'll get to that, tyre slightly damaged, cracking or perished. So it definitely wants a few bits and pieces done for it to pass an MOT again. If we go down to our mileage tracker, it's consistently gone up or stayed level, and it's probably stayed level for a few years because I don't think this car's really been used, and that's why it's been sat in a barn kind of gathering moss. But at least we know that it hasn't dropped down and there's no obvious signs of it having been clocked. Now, I happen to know that this car doesn't have any finance against it. It hasn't been written off, unbelievably. But if you did want to check, you could use Vehicle Score's Ultimate Report, which is £8.97, or the Salvage Plus Report for only £2.97. Don't forget, if you use my code SHIFTYMetal15, you will get 15% off, making the Ultimate Report only £7.62. Bargain. Very difficult to know where to start with this car, so I guess we'll start in usual fashion, just work from the front corner and go our way around. This headlight has got a few scuffs on there which go into the bumper. I think, you know, that is all salvageable with a little bit of elbow grease. This corner looks all right. The wheel looks horrendous, but I'm hoping that the majority of that is brake dust. But actually, now that I look into it, I can see that it is corroded underneath all this brake dust. Our tyre actually seems to have a decent bit of tread. I can't see any perishing on the outside, but if it was noted on the MOTs, I wouldn't be surprised if it was perishing between the treads. But we might have got lucky and they might have actually had some maintenance done since their MOT. But we can also see our discs are absolutely shocking. Just, there's a nice big lip on there. They haven't been changed for a while. And obviously they're all kind of scored and got a load of surface corrosion on from where it's been sat still. So I think it's going to want discs and pads there as well. Coming down the side, it's just got a mix of bird poo, cobwebs, spider. It's literally, it's like it's got a second skin, this thing. It's growing. Like, it's very rarely you see a car that's just, I think that's mud on the side, and it's been there for so long, it's kind of got some kind of biological growth on it. It would be incredibly satisfying to clean this car though. This corner, everything starts to go very downhill. We've got a bend here in this wing, which would need kind of manipulating back in, and, well, we'll get round to the back in a minute. Let's look at this tyre. Again, we got lots of brake dust on here. These tyres do look perished, although there's absolutely tons of tread. They seem to get this a lot around here as well, because a lot of our customers are of the older generation. They don't drive their cars very much. They do like to maintain them though, so they'll have good tread on the tyres, but because they've been sat there barely being used all year, the rubber dries out and starts cracking. So I think that's probably what's happened here. But again, it will clean up. A set of tyres for this shouldn't be too expensive, but you know, as we keep going around, things are going to start adding up. The reason we have a bow out in this wing is because it has been crashed into something here. I assume reversed in, because as you can see, there is quite an impact that's happened that way. I don't know if it's happened sideways. I wouldn't even be surprised, seeing as this was come from a farm, that some piece of farm machinery, a fork or something, has come around there and hit that. Our headlight, or rear light I should say, is broken, hence why it had an advisory on the MOT. I also didn't mention while we were down here, the rear discs look even worse than the fronts. They are shockingly bad. Coming around the back, you can see that it's come from Burnham Garage. I don't even know where that is. I mean, we are in Burnham, but is it Burnham or is it Burnham on Crouch? Some people get that confused quite a lot. Burnham on Sea and Burnham on Crouch, literally opposite sides of the country. It's filthy around the back here as well, but it doesn't look like it'll be too hard to clean up. The majority of this is going to come off. I noticed someone's written 60k on the back there, which must relate to the mileage. It's certainly not the value. This side, this corner has also been bumped, but not as bad. That definitely all wants painting. This wing kind of needs manipulating back out, but other than that, it seems okay. So this side's got off lightly compared to the other. We've got another auto green tyre here. Again, it does feel underinflated. I can't get over how bad these discs look. So discs and pads all the way around this thing will need. There is corrosion on here. This is what happens. See, if you leave the brake dust on here, it's quite easy to clean brake dust off if you get it while it's still quite fresh. But if you leave it on, it tends to eat away at the coating they put on the alloy wheels, and then you start getting the corrosion coming through, and there's just no going back from there other than a full wheel refurb. Again, coming down this side, just filthy. Get a good look in the wing mirrors here, Toby. It's like they've been ploughing a field with it. I don't really get it. It's not good at all. And then this is our normally worst wheel, of course, Nisso front. I mean, it doesn't actually look curbed, but that is an awful lot of brake dust, isn't it? That is pretty bad. Again, discs absolutely ruined. Tyre has loads of tread. This is a Sunny on the front here. It doesn't look, there's a bit of perishing actually. So yeah, you know, before we even think about any bodywork, we're getting into a full set of disc and pads all the way around. 4 tyres, probably wants all 4 wheels refurbished and every corner painted, I imagine, because looky, this corner's been hit as well. This one's not as bad. It's come off its clip, so it would need some new clips to get it back into place, some adjustment and obviously painting up. But yeah, it's just looking very tatty, this, isn't it? Good news is, other than that paint on the corner there, I'll take it back. Something's happened here as well. There's been some kind of impact there. I don't know if that should be more secure than that. Yes, I think it probably should. Something's happened there, so rather than just doing a bumper corner now, you might be looking into doing the whole bumper. So starting to add up. In fact, the fit from the bumper and the bonnet there, the bonnet is slightly raised and that's not open. So I expect when it's taken an impact there, that has twisted things and caused that to happen. Luckily, it can only get better inside, right? We've got one key bar, looks a bit. I haven't found another, but there might be one in there. I think it's going to come down to the paperwork on this car, because the paperwork's good. This car might be worth saving, spending some money on, but if the paperwork's non-existent, then I think we're better off just cutting our losses with this one and getting shot. Good news is our central lock-in does work. Even better news, despite the horrendous condition, which we'll get into, is this is an automatic. And that is a big bonus because automatics are always in high demand, especially on something economical like this. This car is very grubby though, and it's going to need some serious valeting. This is definitely going to test Jordan's skills. There's also quite a farmy smell coming out of it as well. I'm quite used to it. It just reminds me of the smell of horses, which is basically just like hair and pee. It's not really a nice combination. I guess you get used to it, but most people coming to view this car aren't going to be happy with that. On the plus side, we have got CD, radio, Bluetooth. We've got air conditioning, which I have tested and is icy cold, although we have got that typical problem of needing a resistor again because it pumps out on number 4, but we can't get any fans on 1, 2 or 3. I'm gonna have to take my glasses off because I'm sweating so hard out here that they're just sliding off my head. Apologies, I must look horrendous. It really is grimy in here. It's clearly one of those cars that has not been cleaned at all, and I'm just hoping that it's someone who still values something enough to have kept it serviced and maintained, but I guess judging by the tyres and the brakes, I don't know. I'll get Toby to make sure that he gets some real close-up pictures of some of the worst grime in this car because it's pretty up there as far as griminess goes. Before we go any further around the car, I think what I want to do is just check out this paperwork, see if we've got any service history, and figure out whether this car's a lost cause completely or not. All right, we've got a V5. I'll try and not show you that. We've got the last MOT certificate and the invoice for that. Another MOT certificate, another MOT certificate, another MOT certificate. We've got an invoice for some servicing parts here from Mill. That was back in 21. Looks like to someone who owns a farm. So there was also one in 2020. That is it for our paperwork there. So I assume they've been self-servicing this. It's nice that we've got a receipt, but still it would be better to have an official stamp from someone. What's really interesting here is they've saved the original advert from where they bought this car. It says they've owned this car for 76 months, which must be 8 years. I don't know. My arithmetic in this heat is not very good. But for a good old while, and they obviously bought it on 16,000 miles, and the price was £7,995. What they've written on here is £7,500. So that's obviously the deal they managed to get. It shows you how much you could get off back in the day. You can't do that now. Don't come here expecting £500 off. Don't you dare. What's crazy about this is it shows the way that used car prices have gone in the space of whatever we said it was, 8 years, let's say, and 45,000 miles. The car has only lost £300 in value. So we have got service history, but only 3 stamps, sadly. But I guess if we're saying this is 60,000 miles, he's done a couple of services himself, and we're going to do one. We're pretty much on for 1 service every 10,000 miles, so actually not too bad. And interestingly, we can see it is stamped by Burnham Garage Limited, which is in Maidenhead, so it probably does relate to the Burnham on Crouch over on the other side of the country. I don't think that's horrendous news. We can make that okay, I think. If we add in owner serviced and we do our own service history is not going to be too bad. We don't seem to have another key though, which would have been nice, but we can always arrange that. As I just said, the retail for this car is £7,200, so we have got absolutely loads of room to prep this car. It's just whether it's worth doing, but I think it would be interesting to see how good we could get this car. Let's have a little look around the rest, the boot, and then we'll have a look at the engine, and I guess we'll see how it drives. It is equally as grubby in the back here. Judging by the greasy marks on the windows, they've had dogs in the back of here. It's nice to see that we do have our parcel shelf. It's in the back seat for some reason, probably again because they had dogs, but it'd be interesting to get that out and put it in the boot and see if it actually still works or if it's broken. But yeah. Have a quick look in the boot, see if our parcel shelf doesn't seem to want to open. I can hear the switch. That's interesting. Right, just one more thing to add to the list of things to fix. I thought it might have just been stuck from grime. I don't think the solenoid's working quite how it should. Let's fold one of the seats down. We'll see if we can have a look from that way. Right, so it actually doesn't look too bad. The good thing about this being a Korean car is the carpets are quite short pile. I'm hoping that means dog hair will be quite easy to get out. There's not actually as much dog hair in the back as there is in the back seats. We've still got our spare wheel, toolkit. We've even got an extra screwdriver in there, so we're quids in. Right, we'll pop the bonnet, see what kind of condition this engine's looking in, and then we'll take it out for a spin. Okay. So, scrubby, what would you expect with this car? But nothing looks particularly oily or broken. Let's look at our oil. That actually looks okay. It's very black. It is a diesel, but nothing weird going on there. We'll check our coolant. Interestingly, I can see that back in 2013, someone's tested the coolant and they've said that it tested to minus 23 degrees Celsius. So plenty good enough for our climates. It just about looks okay in there. It's a very small spout look down through. I noticed that behind the cobwebs, there is also some glass here. So this windscreen has obviously been smashed at some point and replaced. And we've still got some shards of glass hanging around. It actually looks all right. I think not too bad. I got a feeling there's still some life left in this car. Let's take it out for a spin, then we'll make a decision. So maybe we'll try and jot down some sums and see whether we think this is an equation that actually works out to profit. I'm getting pretty sick of cars that have only got like power 4 for the heaters. Just no peaceful air conditioning. I was going to say we've got a wheel bearing noise, but that could just be those knackered discs and pads. Neither would surprise me, but we've definitely got some kind of whirring noise coming from I don't know, I think front, somewhere. Anywhere in this car would not surprise me. What does surprise me though is it seems alright to drive so far. Tracking, well, yeah, tracking is only slightly out. It's not horrendously out, it is a bit of a cambered road. It doesn't work in our favour, but it's certainly not pulling any weird directions. The brakes actually feel okay considering how rough they look. The automatic gearbox seems to be working all right. It's changing all right under load. Certainly not quick. That's 60. But considering all the algae and everything on these windows, I can't hear any wind noise coming in. That's our parcel shelf sliding around. Considering things could only get better from here with an actual decent set of brakes and tyres, I'm pleasantly surprised with this. You even get used to the smell, don't you? Toby doesn't agree. I've gotten used to the smell. Which is surprising because a nose like this, I can sniff out anything. So surprisingly, it does seem to drive quite well. No knocks, bangs. There's some droning from. I think it was brakes. I don't think it's a wheel bearing. So we know we'd have to change the brakes anyway. We'd have to change tyres. We'd probably need to refurbish the alloy wheels, fix the boot, fix all the paintwork, give it a serious clean out, sort of service. And, you know, after lunch, we'd put it up for sale. So, dilemma is, do we fix it? Or do we clean it up and do the bare minimum, leave the bodywork, and sell it on like that? I don't know. But I get the feeling you'd probably enjoy seeing a transformation on this. So, let's head back to the office. I am going to do some quick figures on how much all this mechanical stuff will cost us and try and guesstimate, as much as I hate that word, guess how much it should cost us for bodywork, because if we could get everything done for under £3,000, which should be pretty doable, we've still got a couple of grand margin in it, so I think this one probably is worth fixing up. So let's head back to the office and run some numbers. Right, so pop back in the office. I've just made a couple of phone calls trying to tot up what this might cost us. I'm thinking full alloy wheel refurbish is going to be about 240 quid. I think we pay 60 quid a wheel for that sort of size. I found a new rear light, that was £72 on eBay. 4 set of A+ budget tyres is going to be £106.40. A full set of disc and pads all the way around is going to cost me £95.87 minus the VAT, and all the service equipment including the oil is going to cost me 36 quid, or just under, minus the VAT. So that's a total of about 550 quid, 550.27. So I guess it comes down to paint. It's actually not going to take too much to get that mechanically right, serviced, brakes sorted, tyres sorted, etc. And I think, I don't know what it's going to cost us. We've got that back corner. That's probably going to be quite expensive to sort out. They're going to have to do some pulling and bending and whatever. And there's at least 3 bumper corners, isn't there? So let's say we spend 1,500 quid. It might be more, to be fair. I might just be being optimistic there, but let's say it's 1,500 quid. We spend £550 on other bits and pieces. We are looking at just over £4,000, aren't we? And if this car is worth 7,200 or whatever, especially if it's then mint condition after valeting everything else, it's a no-brainer really, isn't it? Because we've got about £3,000 left in it, and hopefully we can do some of those things a bit cheaper, maybe the paint will be a bit cheaper. Worst case scenario, it costs us £2,500, and we've still got a £2,000 margin in it. So I think it'd be interesting to see how well this car comes out as well. So I've ordered those bits. We're going to get to it. We'll get it cleaned. I'll get some pictures over to the paint shop and we'll try and get it sorted. And we'll see you when it's all done. Well, here we are. It's about 3 weeks later now, and I am back in the Hyundai i30, and it is looking 100 times better. We've done all the work that we need to. We've had the bodywork done. We've had the wheels done. We've had it serviced, etc. And it is looking 1,000,000 times better. Check it out. Can barely recognise this car from the one that it was before. It's ridiculous. I hope it comes over well on camera, and maybe Toby can edit some side-by-sides of what it was like, because it is really like a different vehicle in here now. Granted, it's not perfect. There's still some kind of scuffs on some of the interior bits and pieces. We're not expecting it to be back to factory fresh, but what a transformation from that biohazard of a car to what it is now. And like I say, maximum of 3 weeks. We got James to do all the body repairs, J repairs. He's been working away on that. He had the car for about a week, and then we had it back. We fitted the mechanical stuff in between. Then Jordan's gone ahead and done an absolutely incredible job on sorting out the valeting on this. It was quite a job, seats out, everything. You probably would have seen in the weekly videos how much he was kind of grafting on that. It was a dirty car, so full credit to Jordan for getting stuck in, cracking on, and not complaining too much about having to get it sorted. So you've seen the end result. The only thing really left to talk about is how much it's cost me and whether there's any money left in this. So let's pull over somewhere and I'll talk you through all the figures on everything I've spent so far and how much I'm hoping to make out of this. Right, so I've got my list here. Starting off, we spent £2,000 on the car. I was going to spend more, but luckily the customer said, we only want £2,000 for it. And I said, fine, I'll do that. It had a lot of bodywork damage, as you'll remember. Paintwork was £1,200 plus VAT. Of course, I'm going to recoup the VAT, so I'm not going to include that. Wheels I had completely refurbished. They weren't really that bad, but I thought if we're going to the effort of doing the whole thing, I want the wheels to look really nice and fresh as well, and it helps sell this car. So that was £280 plus VAT. The brakes, disc and pads all round was £95.87. All the service parts, including the oil, was 36 quid. We had to get a boot latch, if you remember, because the boot wouldn't open. So we had to get it open mechanically and then put a new boot latch in. So that was £59.95. We also had to put in a rear light because that was broken, where that damage was on, I can't remember which side it was now. One of the rear lights needed changing anyway. I think originally, earlier in the video, having looked back, I said it was £72. I managed to find a second-hand one for £44.95. Obviously, we needed to valet it, and we've put new plates on it. So I'm going to put down like a charge of, say, 25 quid for the chemicals and stuff, not the labour, etc. Just the chemicals for getting that done, so that's 25 quid. That gives us a total of £3,741.77. We've just advertised this. It's on the forecourt now for £6,995. So just under £7,000. It seems really good value at that price on just under 60,000 miles, being the automatic and in lovely, nice condition now. The other thing I did say previously in the video as well was checking out whether it wanted a cam belt or timing chain, etc. It is a timing chain, it's not a cam belt, and it has no interval, so as long as there's no issues you don't need to change it. So that saved us a few quid, and we didn't need to do that. Previously in the video I did say, having looked at the MOT history through Vehicle Score, it did tell us that all the tyres were perished and probably wanted changing, and I thought I was going to have to do that. In fact, I ordered 4 tyres, so they were here the whole time. When Adrian was doing the brakes on this car, he said those tyres are perfectly fine, you don't need to change them. There is a minute amount of like perishing on them, but nothing that would come anywhere near an MOT advisory, so I think they've been changed. So I saved myself 100 odd quid there, so that was a bonus. So assuming we sell for that £6,995 and there's no extra expenses wanted on this car, we are looking at a profit of £3,253.23. Not bad at all, well worth the effort. That would be a return on investment of 86.94%, and really not too much trouble at all. 3 weeks, it's been out of the place. It wasn't a huge investment in the first place. So hopefully this sells quickly and we do well out of it. I have to admit there was one thing that I forgot, which was the blower resistor, because it only works on setting number 4 and it doesn't work on 1, 2, 3. We did actually order one, but we got the wrong one. So we now have to take it out to make sure that we can get the part numbers off of it and replace it. So that's another £30 for that part, which I didn't add into those figures, but let's face it, it's not going to make a huge difference, is it? Considering those figures we were just talking about. So that is it. I'm going to get this back to the garage, put it back on the forecourt, get a price board in it, and hopefully it's not too long before a punter comes along and wants to get themselves a nice automatic Hyundai i30. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. It's free to do and really helps me out. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And other than that, I will see you next time.